All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to go behind the counter and live a day in the life of a pharmacy buyer. You ready to get started? Let's do this. So let's set the scene. Imagine this. You're a pharmacy technician. You're a critical part of the healthcare team, right there on the front lines every single day. But today's a little different. You've got a new hat to wear. You are the buyer. That means you are responsible for the entire medication supply, the whole shebang. Stocking, ordering, maintenance, you name it. It's a big job, so let's get to it. Your shift starts, and the first thing you see is just this wall of totes and boxes from the latest delivery. It can look, well, pretty overwhelming. So the big question is, where do you even start? Well, you start with that morning order. And listen, this is way more than just unpacking boxes. It's a super systematic process that makes sure every single item coming through that door is safe and accurate. Your very first job is to grab the invoice from that shipment and check it, item by item, against what's actually inside the boxes. Accuracy here is absolutely everything. Even a tiny mistake at this stage can snowball into huge problems down the road. This whole check-in thing is basically a 5-step dance. First, you match the invoice to the shipment. Next, you inspect every single item for any kind of damage. Third, you verify all the details, not just the drug's name, but its strength and quantity. Is it a bulk bottle or individual unit doses? Fourth, and this one is so critical, you prioritize storage. Anything that needs to be refrigerated or frozen goes into controlled storage immediately, no exceptions. And finally, if you find any problems, missing items, damaged goods, anything, you report it to the supplier right away. Now, thankfully, you're not doing all this by hand. Technology is your best friend here, specifically the barcode. One quick scan pulls up the product's national drug code. That's the NDC number. It instantly tells you the exact medication and package size, making this whole process so much faster and way, way more accurate. So once all the physical inventory is checked in and put away, your focus shifts. It's time to move from the physical shelves to the digital shelves, the software systems that track every last pill in the pharmacy. At the heart of this digital system is a concept called perpetual inventory. It sounds kind of fancy, but it's a really simple idea with powerful results. It's just a continuous, real-time record of every single item. So when a drug is dispensed, it's subtracted. When a new order comes in, it's added. This way, you always know exactly what you have in stock. Now, building on top of that, the system uses what we call reorder points. For every drug, you set a minimum and a maximum stock level. The second the inventory hits that min number, the system automatically creates a purchase order to get you back up to the max. It's brilliant, really. It's how you avoid running out of essential meds. Of course, not all drugs are created equal. This is where the 80-20 rule comes in, which is a key idea in inventory management. What it means is that about 20% of your stock, your fast movers, will account for roughly 80% of all the prescriptions you fill. So if you focus your attention on that crucial 20%, you can manage your entire inventory much more efficiently. So how does the system keep that perpetual inventory up to date? Through the point of sale system, or POS. Every time a medication's barcode gets scanned at checkout for a patient, the system automatically deducts it from your inventory count. This is the crucial link that keeps your digital records perfectly in sync with what's happening in the real world. Okay, the morning delivery is sorted out, your digital shelves are all updated, so your attention turns to the next cycle. It's time to use all this great data to proactively place the next order. And who do you order from? Well, you've got choices, and you use them for different reasons. For most of your daily needs, you'll use a wholesaler. They stock tens of thousands of items and can get them to you fast. But for really expensive or specialty drugs, you might buy directly from the manufacturer. And for things like custom orders or when there's a drug shortage, you'll turn to a compounding pharmacy. These days, the whole process is almost entirely electronic. Your inventory system creates a purchase order, sends it digitally to the supplier, and then you get a confirmation back that details exactly what's being shipped, what might be out of stock, and of course, the final cost. It's a pretty seamless workflow. Now, here is a hugely important safety principle. To prevent errors and even potential abuse, especially with controlled substances, good practice says that the person who places an order should not be the same person who receives it. It's a fundamental system of checks and balances. Of course, inventory management isn't just about bringing things in. An equally important part of your role as the buyer is handling medications that need to go out, but not to a patient. We call this inventory spoilage. You see, when a medication expires, it isn't just that it might not work as well.
The bigger deal is that its chemical compounds can actually break down and become harmful. Patient safety is always priority number one, so managing expired stock is a non-negotiable part of the job.
So what do you do with this expired medication? You use a reverse distributor. These are specialized companies that handle the entire headache of the returns process for you. They deal with all the different manufacturers' policies, they process the returns, and they get the pharmacy credit back, saving an incredible amount of time and money. As your day as the buyer comes to a close, it's a good time to step back and see the bigger picture. This role is about so much more than just stocking shelves. It's about the fundamental health of the entire pharmacy.
Ultimately, it really all comes down to three pillars. First, patient safety, making sure medications are on hand, they're in date, and they're safe to use. Second, financial health, optimizing your stock levels to manage costs and keep things running smoothly. And third, regulatory compliance, following all the strict rules for tracking, returns, and disposal. Your work as the buyer has a direct impact on every single one of these.
So, you've successfully navigated a day as a pharmacy buyer, from receiving and ordering all the way to returns. But this job is always evolving, which brings us to a final question to think about. As technology gets even more advanced and new, complex medicines keep coming out, what do you think is the next great challenge for the pharmacy buyer? Have you ever been standing at the pharmacy counter, you've got your insurance card out, and you're just wondering, why is this so complicated? You're definitely not alone. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that whole prescription payment puzzle. We're going to show you exactly what's happening behind the scenes in that 1 minute between you handing over your prescription and finding out what you owe. So to really get why this is all so complex, you have to understand the scale we're dealing with. Just look at these numbers. Back in 1980, the entire country spent about $12 billion on prescriptions. Okay, now jump to 2017, and that number ballooned to over $333 billion. That massive, massive growth is a huge part of why the system for paying for it all has become so incredibly complicated. And yeah, that brings us right to the question that I know so many of us have asked ourselves. You do the right thing, you pay for insurance, but the process can still be just a headache. So why? Well, it's because what looks like a simple purchase is actually the super fast, invisible negotiation happening between a bunch of different players you never even see. Okay, so let's start trying to put the pieces of this puzzle together. And the first, maybe the most important piece, is figuring out who really foots the bill when you pick up that little bottle of pills. That paying party is what the industry calls a third-party program. It's actually a pretty simple idea. You're the first party, the pharmacy is the second, and your insurance company is the third party that covers most of the cost. Sounds easy, right? But hold on, it's not just the three of you in this transaction.
That's because between you and your insurer, there is this incredibly powerful and usually invisible middleman who's actually running the whole show. And these middlemen are called pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs for short. You can think of them as the managers of your drug plan. Your insurance company or your employer hires these PBMs to handle everything, from deciding which drugs are covered to processing all those claims. And the PBM market? It is dominated by just a handful of huge companies. You're looking at them right here, names like CVS Caremark and Express Scripts. These guys are the giants. They wield a ton of power, and they control these massive digital networks that basically every single pharmacy has to plug into to process your insurance. Okay, so back to you at the pharmacy counter. The technician has your prescription, they have your insurance card. So what happens right at that moment? Well, it's something called online adjudication, and it's basically a digital handshake that happens in the blink of an eye. So this is it. This is that digital handshake. The tech types your info in and zoom, it flies across the internet to the PBM. The PBM's computer instantly checks all your plan's rules. Is this drug covered? Is it the right dose? Have you met your deductible yet? And then it sends a response back. All of this, the whole round trip, happens in less than 60 seconds. It's truly an amazing piece of technology, but as we all know, it doesn't always go so smoothly. Ah, yes, that moment. The pharmacist looks at the screen and says, looks like your insurance didn't approve it. We've all been there. So let's break down some of the most common reasons your claim might get rejected. First up, the absolute classic refill too soon. You know the drill. You're running low, maybe you're about to go on vacation, so you try to get your refill a few days early, and the computer says no. It feels arbitrary, but there's a reason for it.
The logic from the insurance side is pretty simple. They've agreed to pay for a 30-day supply, for example. So to prevent people from stockpiling meds or to reduce waste, their system is programmed to say, not yet, until you've used up a certain amount of your current prescription, usually something like 75% of it. Okay, next up is a rejection that can cause a little bit of panic. Patient not covered. That sounds really bad, right? But honestly, most of the time, it's just a simple data entry issue. It almost never means you've suddenly lost your insurance coverage. So before you worry, just check your card. Did your job switch insurance plans? Did your insurer just mail you a new card with a new ID number or group number on it? A lot of the time, the fix is as easy as the pharmacy tech just updating that info in their system. And finally, there's a more technical sounding one. NDC not covered. This one can be pretty confusing. So, what is an NDC? It stands for National Drug Code. Just think of it like a unique barcode for every single drug. Every dosage, every bottle size, it's how the computers know exactly what medication you're trying to get. So when you get that NDC not covered error, what the system is really saying is that the specific drug you're trying to fill, that exact barcode, isn't on your insurance plan's approved list. And that approved list is super important. It has a special name. And that brings us to the final piece of our puzzle, learning how to decode the language of your own insurance plan. If you just know a few of these key terms, it can make a world of difference in understanding what's going on. First, it really helps to know what kind of plan you have. You've probably heard these letters thrown around, and HMO is usually the most strict. You have to stay inside their network of doctors and pharmacies. A PPO gives you more flexibility to go out of network, but it'll cost you more. And a POS plan is kind of like a mix of the two. Your plan type basically sets the ground rules for everything else. And here's that super important word again, formulary. If you remember one word today, make it this one. The formulary is simply the official list of all the medications your insurance has agreed to help pay for. If your drug isn't on that list, that's when you get that NDC not covered rejection. Now, we all know what a copay is, right? It's your part of the bill. But what you might not know is that your plan probably has different copay levels or tiers. They use these to encourage you to use certain drugs over others. So you'll have a really low copay for a generic drug, a higher one for a brand name drug they like, and maybe a really high one for a brand name drug they don't prefer. And finally, the deductible. Think of this like a hurdle you have to jump over at the beginning of each year. It's the total amount of money you have to pay out of your own pocket before your main insurance coverage really starts to kick in. So if you haven't met that deductible yet for the year, you might find yourself paying close to the full cash price for your meds. So there you have it. We've gone from skyrocketing costs to the powerful PBM middlemen to that 1-minute digital handshake, all the way to the secret language of your insurance plan. It's a really intricate system with all these layers of rules and computers talking to each other behind the counter. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you know how it all works, does the puzzle feel a little more solved, or does it just seem bigger and more complex than you ever imagined? So you hand over that little slip of paper from your doctor, and a bit later, you walk away with a bottle of pills. Simple, right? Well, what happens in between is actually this surprisingly complex journey. It's a mix of high-tech, strict rules, and a whole lot of human expertise. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the secret life of your prescription. Yeah, we've all been there, right? Staring at the shelves, waiting for your name to be called. But behind that counter, it's so much more than just counting pills. It's a high-stakes process packed with digital verifications, robotic precision, and a whole bunch of human safety checks. So let's follow that prescription and see exactly where it goes. All right, so let's start our journey in a place we all know but maybe don't really know, the community pharmacy. This could be a big chain store, one inside a supermarket, or your local independent shop. No matter where it is, this is ground zero. And just to give you an idea of the sheer scale we're talking about, nearly 2/3 of all prescription drugs in the United States get filled right here in these community pharmacies. They are, without a doubt, the front line of healthcare for millions of us every single day. That's why their process is so incredibly important. Okay, so before anyone even thinks about touching a pill, your prescription has to survive what I like to call the digital gauntlet. The first step has nothing to do with medicine bottles. It's all about navigating this complex maze of data, insurance rules, and federal laws, all of which are there to keep you safe. So what does that actually look like? Well, it all kicks off with this super careful intake process. A pharmacy technician makes sure you are, well, you. They check your name, your date of birth, your allergies, all to prevent any dangerous mix-ups. Then, every single detail from that doctor's note gets digitized and zapped over to your insurer. And finally, the whole thing gets flagged for a pharmacist to review. You see? Every single step is a safety net.
And this is where the magic happens, really. The second your info is in the system, it sends out an instant digital claim to your insurance company. Think of it like a digital handshake. It happens in seconds, and the pharmacy gets a response, either paid or rejected. And if it's rejected, the technician basically becomes a detective, trying to figure out why, all to make sure you can get your medication covered. It's this lightning-fast negotiation happening completely behind the scenes.
And the reason for all this secrecy and quiet talk? It all comes down to one big, important law, HIPAA. This is the federal law that guards your private health information. It's why staff speak in hushed tones, why they shred any paper with your name on it, and why they can't just chat about your health with anyone. It's basically the legal guardian of your medical privacy. All right, so once all those digital hurdles are cleared, now we get to the physical part. This is where old-school pharmacy skills meet some seriously cool technology, all to make sure that what ends up in that little orange bottle is exactly what's supposed to be there.
So how do they actually count out all those tiny pills? Well, there are two main ways. You've got the classic counting tray, which still gets a lot of use, but in busy pharmacies, they're all about automation. We're talking sophisticated robots that can grab the right vial, print and slap on a label, and count out the perfect number of pills with incredible accuracy, all in just a few seconds. It's pretty amazing to watch.
But how can they be absolutely 100% sure it's the right drug? Well, every single stock bottle has this unique 11-digit fingerprint called a National Drug Code, or NDC. The technician scans the barcode on your new label, and then they scan the barcode on the big stock bottle. The computer has to find a perfect match. If it doesn't, boom, everything stops. It's a simple but really powerful way to make sure you're getting the right drug, the right strength, and the right form. You know, something really interesting has been happening over the last few years. The role of your local pharmacy, it's totally changing. It's not just a place to pick up medicine anymore. It is quickly turning into a real neighborhood health hub.
I mean, just think about it. It's not just about prescriptions anymore. You can walk in and get your flu shot, your COVID shot, your RSV shot. You can even get tested for things like strep throat. They're running programs to help people manage chronic conditions like diabetes and doing medication reviews for Medicare patients. Some even have little walk-in clinics for minor stuff. Your pharmacy is truly becoming the new front door to our healthcare system. Okay, so after all that high-tech stuff, all the new clinical services, the journey comes full circle. It's back to the counter, back to you. And this last step, the handoff, this is all about human connection, clear communication, and making sure you walk away feeling confident. And that final handoff, it's so much more than just a simple transaction. This quote really hits the nail on the head. People coming to a pharmacy often don't feel well. They might be sick or worried or just plain irritable. So that technician's job suddenly shifts to being an expert in empathy, staying positive and helpful even when things get a little tense. And it's not just about being nice, right? These are actual specific techniques that are super important. Simple things like making eye contact, really listening to what you're saying, and even just using your name, it all helps build trust. It makes sure everything is crystal clear when you're getting something as important as your medicine. So, you know that question you always get, do you have any questions for the pharmacist? Well, that's not just them being polite. It's actually based on a federal law from 1990 called OBRA 90. It requires pharmacists to offer to counsel patients anytime they get a new prescription. It is the final safety check to make sure you know exactly how to take your medicine safely. Whew, so we've gone from a piece of paper through this whole digital maze, past robots, and all the way to the final human handoff. So what's the big takeaway here? What should we really remember from all this?
It really boils down to this. Your prescription's journey is this incredible mix of three things. You've got high-tech precision, you've got strict government regulation, and you've got that essential, compassionate human care. All of those pieces have to work together perfectly for one single reason, to protect your health and your safety. So next time you're at the counter, you'll know about the amazing, hidden journey that's about to kick off. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As our pharmacies keep evolving into these super accessible health hubs, what's next? What new roles will they play in the future of our health?
Okay, so you're in the hospital. A doctor orders some medication, and a little while later, a nurse comes in with a pill. But have you ever stopped to think about the incredible, high-stakes journey that little pill took to get to you? Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden world of the hospital pharmacy. It's a system that never, ever sleeps. I mean, really think about that. You've got a hospital with maybe hundreds of patients, each with their own unique needs, and there are literally thousands of different medications on hand. How in the world does the exact right pill in the exact right dose find the exact right person at the exact right time without a single mistake? The logistics are just mind-boggling, and the stakes couldn't be higher. You know, this isn't just about grabbing a bottle off a shelf. It's a carefully choreographed dance between amazing technology and dedicated human experts, and the entire system is built for one single purpose: to keep you safe. So let's dive in and see how this whole incredible process actually works. First things first, you've got to understand that the pharmacy is basically the central nervous system of the entire hospital. It connects every single department, from the controlled chaos of the ER to the quiet focus of an operating room, making sure everyone has precisely what they need to save lives. It really is a team sport. You've got the doctor who writes the prescription, the pharmacist who double-checks everything, and the nurse who gives the medication. It's this perfect triangle of care. But who's the crucial link right in the middle of it all? The person preparing, storing, and delivering that medicine? That's the Certified Pharmacy Technician, or CPHT. They are, without a doubt, the backbone of this whole operation. And this is definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of job. I mean, the drugs you need for a heart attack patient in the cardiac care unit are completely different from the tiny, precise doses for a premature baby in pediatrics. The pharmacy has to be an expert in every single one of these specialized areas, delivering with speed and absolute precision no matter what's going on.
Okay, so let's follow one medication on its journey. It all starts with a single urgent request. Picture this. A patient is in critical condition in the cardiac care unit. The doctor needs a life-saving drug, and they need it stat.
So gone are the days of trying to read a doctor's messy handwriting. Thank goodness. Now, physicians enter orders directly into a system called CPOE, Computerized Physician Order Entry. That order is then zapped instantly to the pharmacy. This one change was a total game changer, slashing errors right from the very beginning.
Now, not all orders are created equal. You have your standard, routine orders, right? Like an antibiotic that's given every 8 hours. But our patient's order is a stat order. That is the hospital equivalent of a 5-alarm fire. It means drop everything you are doing right now. The second it comes in, a pharmacist is on it, scrutinizing the dose, checking for allergies, looking for any dangerous interactions. It's the first critical human safety check, and it all happens in just a matter of minutes.
All right, so that verified stat order has just hit the pharmacy, the hospital's hidden brain. But it's not just one big room full of drugs. It's actually a super sophisticated network built for maximum speed and efficiency.
So here's how it's set up. You have the central pharmacy, which is kind of like the main warehouse. It holds the bulk of the inventory and it's open 24/7. But for critical areas like the ICU or the OR, you have what are called satellite pharmacies. Think of them like little mini ERs for medication. Our stat order goes directly to the ICU satellite, which is already stocked with the critical care drugs they need. And this is where the pharmacy techs spring into action.
The order is for an IV drip of dopamine. Now, you can't just mix this up on a countertop. A specially trained technician has to go into what's called a clean room, an environment that is meticulously controlled and actually cleaner than a surgical suite. In there, they use what are called aseptic techniques to make absolutely sure not a single microscopic particle contaminates the medicine that's going directly into the patient's veins. Meanwhile, another part of the order, say an antibiotic like vancomycin, is also being filled. But it's not being picked by a person. An automation technician is using a massive robotic dispensing cabinet. It's basically a giant, super smart vending machine for medicine. And it's incredible because it completely removes the chance of human error by picking the exact right drug every single time.
But wait a second, how did any of those drugs even get on the shelf to begin with? Well, that's the job of the inventory technician, another unsung hero. This person is like an air traffic controller for thousands of medications. They're tracking stock, anticipating what doctors will need, and even navigating national drug shortages to make sure those life-saving meds are always there when you need them. So getting the right drug prepared is a huge step, but it's really only half the battle. The entire system is built with these multiple overlapping layers of protection, all designed to catch a potential error before it can ever reach a patient. This is what safety experts call the Swiss cheese model.
You see, every step has potential holes, like a slice of Swiss cheese. But by layering all these slices on top of each other, the chances of a hole lining up all the way through become almost zero. A pharmacist verifies the order. A technician prepares it. A barcode scanner confirms it. Then another pharmacist does a final check. It's all about intentional redundancy, because when it comes to medication, there's absolutely no room for error. Now, some drugs are in a category all their own. They're called high-alert medications. These are drugs like insulin or potassium chloride that can cause serious harm if the dose is even a tiny bit off. Because of that risk, they get a mandatory double and sometimes even a triple check by different people before they can ever leave the pharmacy. And what about drugs that look or sound almost identical? I mean, look at dopamine and dobutamine. To prevent mix-ups, pharmacies use this brilliantly simple technique called tall man lettering. By capitalizing certain parts of the name, it forces your brain to slow down and see the difference. It's such a simple, low-tech solution to a really high-stakes problem. Just genius.
Okay, so our medications have been prepared, they've been checked, they've been double-checked. Now it's time for the final leg of the journey, getting them from the pharmacy safely to the patient's bedside.
For a lot of the smaller pills and vials, hospitals use something you might have seen at a bank drive-thru, a pneumatic tube system. It's this wild network of tubes that uses compressed air to literally shoot capsules of medicine across the entire hospital in seconds. Now, our patient's IV bag is too big for that, so a tech will hand carry it. But that smaller dose of vancomycin, it can be tubed right to the nurse. When the nurse gets the meds, they go to the patient's bedside and consult the MAR, the Medication Administration Record. This is the ultimate source of truth. It's a digital list of every single drug ordered for that specific patient, when it's due, and it creates a permanent record of who gave what and when. And here we are, the final, most critical moment. The nurse takes a scanner and first scans the barcode on the patient's wristband. Beep! Then, they scan the barcode on the actual medication that just came from the pharmacy. Beep! The computer system then confirms the match. Right patient, right drug, right dose, right time. It's this final technological handshake that serves as the last barrier, preventing any possible error. The journey is finally complete. So from a doctor's single click to a nurse's final scan, it's this whole invisible journey of intense precision and care, all happening just out of sight. It's an amazing reminder that, in a hospital, the most crucial ingredient in any medicine isn't really the drug itself, it's the system and the people that deliver it safely.
Hey everyone. So, if you think being a pharmacy technician is just about one thing, working behind the counter at your local drugstore, you are in for a treat. Today, we're going to blow the doors wide open on all the different career paths that exist beyond that retail counter. We're talking about some of the most specialized, fastest-growing parts of the pharmacy world.
So, to make this all real, let's meet Sarah. She's a brand new pharmacy tech, and she's staring at 3 totally different job offers. One's from a mail-order giant, another from a long-term care facility, and the third is at a specialized lab. So, we're going to help her and you figure out what each of these jobs is really like. All right, first up on Sarah's list is the offer from a mail-order pharmacy. Now, you see chain drugstores everywhere, right? But believe it or not, mail order is growing way faster. So what's fueling this huge change? Okay, so the secret sauce for mail-order pharmacies. It's all about maintenance medications. You know, the drugs people take every single day for chronic conditions, like high blood pressure or diabetes. The need for these is super predictable, which makes them perfect for shipping. You're not going to get a prescription for a sudden ear infection through the mail, right? For that, you need to run to your local pharmacy, like now. Seriously, just picture a massive Amazon fulfillment center. That's basically a mail-order pharmacy. They operate on this huge scale, serving the whole country, which means they get big discounts for buying in bulk. And those savings, they pass them on, which is why insurance companies absolutely love them. Inside, it's a high-tech assembly line for prescriptions. Everything is specialized. You might have one tech who only enters prescriptions into the system, another person just runs the giant robotic dispensing machines, and another is just focused on getting packages ready to ship. With pharmacists double-checking things and barcodes getting scanned at every step, the whole system is built for speed, quality, and efficiency. It's pretty amazing.
Okay, let's move on to Sarah's second offer. This one's from a long-term care facility. This part of pharmacy is all about providing non-stop care for patients who can't fully care for themselves, whether they're in a nursing home or, as we're seeing more and more, even in their own house.
Now, this is super interesting. In long-term care, pharmacists kind of wear 2 different hats.
You've got the distributive pharmacist. Think of them as the supplier. Their job is to make sure all the right medications get to the right patients. But then you have the consultant pharmacist. They're the strategist. They actually go into the facilities, pull up patient charts, and work with the medical team to fine-tune the medication plan. As a tech, you'd be supporting both of these vital roles. So, what are you actually doing all day? Well, your day is going to be packed, and it feels a lot like working in a hospital. You could be filling up these huge medication carts for an entire floor of a nursing home, mixing IV solutions, making sure the dispensing machines are running smoothly, or even restocking the emergency kits. It's a role with a ton of variety and responsibility.
But what if we could take that same level of care and bring it right to the patient's doorstep? Well, that's exactly what home infusion is all about. It's one of the most exciting fields in pharmacy, where treatments that used to require a hospital stay can now be done right in a patient's living room.
And home infusion is absolutely a team sport. You've got the doctor who orders the treatment, a nurse who coordinates everything and teaches the patient, and a pharmacist who maps out the whole medication strategy. And right in the middle of all that is the pharmacy tech, who's the one actually compounding and preparing these really complex medications.
And we're not talking about simple stuff here. The therapies being managed at home are seriously complex and often life-sustaining. We're talking powerful IV antibiotics, nutritional therapy for patients who can't eat, intense pain management, even chemotherapy. Thanks to new technology, patients can get this incredible care and still have a much better quality of life at home.
All right, now for Sarah's third and final offer. This one takes us deep into the lab, where medicines are literally built from the ground up. Let's dive into the world of compounding and nuclear pharmacy.
You might think compounding is some tiny, niche part of the industry, but get this. There are about 7,500 pharmacies in the U.S. that specialize in these services. While your corner pharmacy might do a tiny bit of it, these labs live and breathe custom medications.
So, why would you need a custom-made drug anyway? Well, it comes down to solving specific patient problems. Maybe a patient is allergic to the red dye in a standard pill. Or maybe a really important drug is on back order. Sometimes a patient, like a small child, needs a very, very specific dose that you just can't buy off the shelf. Or they need a liquid instead of a pill they can't swallow. Compounding makes all that possible.
Okay, now we're getting into the really high-tech stuff, nuclear pharmacy. And yeah, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's an absolutely vital part of modern medicine. These specialized pharmacies prepare and ship out radioactive materials, called radiopharmaceuticals, that are used in hospitals every day.
The whole rhythm of these pharmacies is totally different from anything else. They're often buzzing with activity overnight, preparing individual doses that have to be delivered to hospitals before 6 a.m. for that day's medical scans. It's a race against time, around the clock, and it's absolutely essential for hospitals to function.
So what's the point of all this radioactive material? Well, it's used in over 100 different diagnostic tests that basically let doctors see what's happening inside your body with amazing clarity. We're talking cardiac scans to check on your heart, bone scans to spot disease, and PET scans that can pinpoint cancer. It's incredible technology.
Of course, when you're working with radioactive materials, safety is everything. I mean, it's non-negotiable. The whole field is super regulated by federal groups like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the Department of Transportation. They set the rules for everything from handling the materials to shipping them safely. It's a job that requires an insane amount of focus.
Okay, wow, we have been on quite a tour, right? From massive warehouses to high-tech labs. Let's circle all the way back to Sarah and figure out what to do with her 3 offers.
So let's break this down for her. First, that mail order job. It's super automated, and since the steps are so specialized, her lack of IV experience isn't really a problem. She's probably qualified. For the long-term care job, it's a lot like a hospital, so maybe. But that parenteral lab, that's likely a no-go for now. That job requires something called aseptic technique, super sterile practices for making IVs, and she just doesn't have that experience yet.
After looking at all this, it's pretty clear there's no single best job. It's really about finding the place where you fit. Do you love a fast-paced, high-tech system where efficiency is king? Mail order might be your jam. Do you want to be more hands-on, doing a bunch of different tasks that directly support patients? Long-term care could be an amazing fit. Or do you just love the pure science of it all? Then maybe a compounding lab is your calling. So that brings us to the final question, and this one's for you. We've seen the assembly lines, the patient care centers, and the futuristic labs. Now that you know it's out there, if you were in Sarah's shoes, which one of these paths would you be most excited to check out first?